it's Kaeyi and welcome to Hardware Heaven. Today we are going to take a look at the second edition of the Razer Blade. We're going to go into the specs, show you some benchmarks, as well as looking at the Switchblade UI and all of the features that come along with the Razer Blade. So let's get right into today's review. So let's get straight into the review. As you can see, we've got the Razer Blade packaging right in front of us. You can see we've got a embedded Razer branding logo in the middle of the box. If we lift this up, you can see that on the inside there is some foam for extra protection of the Razer Blade, so that's a really great idea. Make sure it doesn't get damaged when it gets to you, as well as a ton of foam and packaging inside the actual box that this box comes in, so they really have thought of everything in regards to keeping it safe for whilst it travels to you. Then inside we've got the Razer Blade itself. You simply pull up this green ribbon which allows you to lift up the blade and reveal everything underneath. So let's put the blade aside for one moment while we take a look at the additional things that come in the box. Here we have got the Razer set of information that you always get whenever you buy a product. You normally get some stickers, you've got a cleaning cloth here, as well as a manual and some information and support for the Razer Blade, your information on Cult of Razer, the protection plastic that you can put on top of the Switchblade UI screen to protect that, make sure it doesn't get scratched and damaged, as well as some Synapse 2.0 information, and then you've got your quick start guide and kind of mini manual and everything you need to know on how to set up the blade. So that's all of the information you need there. You've then got your Razer Blade power supply here. It comes in this box with a European plug, so you do have to make sure that when you're purchasing it you do get the right plug attachment, or that you have your own spare one, because this is a European one and obviously I'm in England, so I needed to attach my own English plug so that I could use that. Here is the power supply. As you can see, it's pretty small. It's got the Razer logo on there. It's pretty awesome. I like how small it is. It doesn't really overheat. So let's get straight into the blade itself. So the Razer Blade itself has a very sleek and modern design. It's a metal chassis with a black painted finish. It's got the Razer Blade triple-headed snake in the middle, which actually glows when the blade is on. It's very minimalist, there's not much going on, it's a simple design. It's very, very light and it's extremely thin. If I show you the sides, as you can see, it's extremely thin. The screen is tiny. You've got all of the ports along the sides and you've got this little ridge on the front to be able to lift up the screen super easy. As you can open up, you can see the design continues. You've got the Switchblade UI on the right hand side, your keyboard on the left. You've got the power on button, which also has the triple-headed snake logo. You've got your speaker along the top and your webcam along the top of the screen here. If we look at the ports that you've got, on the left hand side you've got your input for your power supply, you've got an Ethernet cable port, you've got a HDMI port, and then three 3.0 USB ports and your audio in/out combo port. So bear that in mind, that is a combination port. There is no microphone port. That's something to notice. If you have got a headset with two separate wires for the audio and the microphone, you're going to want to get an adapter to combine those into one port. The Razer Blade screen has a 17.3-inch LED backlit display which has a resolution of 1920 by 1080 pixels. The specifications of the second edition of the Razer Blade is a little bit different to the first edition. We've got an Intel Core i7 quad-core processor with hyper-threading. At its base it's 2.2 GHz, but it can turbo to 3.2 GHz. It's got 8 GB of dual-channel DDR3 RAM at 1 1600 megahertz. It's got a 500 gigabytes hard drive and a 64 gigabyte SATA 3 SSD. So you can have your operating system and some of your games on the SSD while having all of your documents and files on the hard drive. So it's great that it's got that combination inside the Blade. Then we've got a mobile NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660M with 2 gigabytes of video dedicated RAM. So let's see how quickly the Razer Blade in all of its specification glory turns on. So we press the button. As you can see that the Razer on switch button is actually starting to glow. Now this will actually change colour depending on the status of the Blade. Green is it's on, white it's in standby, and red it's low on battery. The red colour actually changes depending on how low on battery you are. It will have a thin red line if it's running low and it's got 15 minutes left, and have a thick red line when you've got 5 minutes left. So if you're in game and you can't see your battery icon on the start bar on the right hand side, you'll still be able to know from looking at the on switch how long you've got left. As you can see, that took really no time at all to completely boot up. We don't have a password on the Razer Blade currently, so it was a lot quicker than having to log in, etc. So far, I've tested the Razer Blade using Skyrim as well as Crysis 3 and League of Legends. So I've tried a different variety of games, graphical intensities, and we've got quite a few benchmark graphs to show you in a few moments. But first of all, I want to go into the keyboard itself and the Switchblade UI. So the keyboard is a pretty standard keyboard. The only addition is that the arrow keys on the right hand side are a little bit smaller than you would normally find on a keyboard. This is to make room for the Razer function key down here. So the up arrow and the down arrow keys have been combined into sort of one of a normal size key. They are split in half, and then you've got the Razer function key here. This key uses the Switchblade UI on the right hand side. So if we go into the arrow mode, which you can see here, this turns into the numpad at the top, and we can use the screen as a touchpad. We've simply pressed the Razer button to get back to having the full selection. You've got a full number pad, a macro screen to edit and add more macros, some gaming mode buttons where you can disable Alt-Tab and Alt-F4 on the Windows key, which means you won't accidentally get out of the game if you are playing on. We've got the internet. We can have an internet browser on the screen here, so you can see here that we've got the Razer store loaded up that we can browse through. You can have any website. We've then got YouTube. You can search and log into a YouTube account and favourite and watch videos on this small screen, as well as logging into Facebook, checking and making statuses. You can also have Twitter. You can tweet directly from here, which is great. If you're mid-game, you can use the functionalities to tweet straight from there. Checking your emails as well. We've got a clock here as well, which you can change from a stopwatch to a normal clock system. And then if we scroll along, you can see here that the screen changes. Now I would say that the scrolling system is not as easy as it is on a MacBook or an iPad or any other tablet using that kind of slide scroll system, simply because it's just a little bit stiff. It does get a little bit tough to get used to, but you will realise that it will take a couple of tries. It's nothing quick. If you're expecting to change screens whilst you're in game or something like that, it can get a little frustrating. So that's one thing I would say. It's not as sensitive on that part of the touchscreen as I would have liked. We've then got game timers here, and if you install your gaming apps, you can scroll through ones like Battlefield 3. You've got some League of Legends timers, so you know when certain mobs spawn and things like that, depending on different maps. We've then got a screenshot function. We can simply take a screenshot, that will be our screen, and then we can post that to Facebook or Twitter, depending on what you want to do, which is a great functionality. We've then got some Star Wars The Old Republic, some Counter-Strike, TF2, Battlefield 3, Skyrim and League of Legends apps. All of the apps have different functionalities and aid you in game. For example, the League of Legends app shows you all of the champions and the skills that they have, and you can have that up during gameplay so that you can use these buttons along the top will change into the skills as well as your items, and you'll be able to use those without having to use the 1, 2, 3, 4 and the QER function, so you can use the right hand side if that's something that you prefer. Razer have said that they will be adding more functionality to the Switchblade UI as it becomes more popular. Obviously the Razer Blade, especially the version 2, is quite new, and the Deathstalker keyboard is still quite expensive, that not a lot of people have it. So they are looking at more functionalities, more things that they can add to the Switchblade UI, which obviously will add more features to those people who own it. Now if we take a look at some of the benchmarks, I'll be taking these benchmark scores from the written review on the Hardware Heaven website done by Stuart. Now this first one, we used 3D Mark 2013 and we performed 2 tests using the CloudGate and Firestrike 3D Mark tests. The Razer Blade got a score of 9,964 on the CloudGate test and 1,707 on the Firestrike test. When running Battlefield 3 at 1920 x 1080p with 0 anti-aliasing on ultra graphics, we got an average of 29 FPS, a max of 37 FPS and a minimum of 19 FPS. When running Crysis 3, the known PC melting game, at 1280 x 720p on low graphics, we got an average of 22 frames per second, 30 FPS as a max and 18 as a minimum. Far Cry 3 on 1920 x 1080p on medium settings gave us an average of 26 FPS, 33 as a max and 15 as a minimum FPS. And the last game we tested was Starcraft 2 Heart of the Swarm on 1920 x 1080p on ultra graphics, gave us an average of 61 FPS, a max of 74 and a minimum of 27. Let's take a look at the PC Mark performance test. For video playback, we got 23.15 FPS. For storage, we got 15.49 megabytes per second. Graphics DX9 gave us 21.59 FPS. Image manipulation gave us 9.16 megapixels per second. Import pics gave us 20.26 megabytes per second. This overall gives us some examples at how well the Blade can perform at different tasks, not only gaming. Overall, I really have enjoyed using the Blade. It's been a pleasure to use. It's extremely fast, it's powerful, it does everything I want to do. I'm using it with Windows 7. I would say it'd be extremely frustrating to use with Windows 8, especially having the Switchblade UI as your trackpad. I would say it's extremely necessary to have a mouse alongside it. I've been using the Razer Naga to use with the Blade simply because having the mouse positioned here is a little bit confusing. You'll always put your hand straight to the middle of the laptop, and that's something that you just need to adjust to. I would say that having 3 USB 3 ports is a little bit little, considering that we've got a combined audio and microphone port. Most headsets these days are either USB or they have a split cable between audio and mic, and Razer don't actually provide an adapter for that, so you would need to purchase that additionally. My preferred headset of choice actually uses a USB port, so that's one gone. If I then want to have a mouse in there, that's a second USB port gone, leaving me one left for something like an external hard drive, a condenser mic, or a webcam, for example, because the webcam on the Razer Blade isn't actually that great. It's a better webcam than I've seen in other laptops, especially the MSI that I previously reviewed. It had a very small frame rate for a laptop of that expense. The Razer Blade is a lot better, however it's still not great. If you're looking for something that's high definition, 720 or 1080p, you're going to have an external webcam, and that's something you need a USB port. So you probably will need some additional external USB ports if you've got quite a lot of equipment to plug in like I do. So to recap, we've got a gaming laptop with some awesome specs, great performance. We've got the Switchblade UI on the right hand side with various apps and convenience things that really help when in-game, especially when you're playing on a laptop and you only have one screen. We've got a mediocre webcam, a good sound system. I do really like the sound quality coming out of this laptop compared to laptops that aren't really made for gaming. They have put some effort into trying to make this good quality sounds coming out of there, which I really, really like. We've got a couple of USB ports on the left hand side. Ideally there could be more, and preferably split, just in case you have some bigger items. You really should have a port on the right hand side to plug your mouse in at least. You've not got to stretch wires all the way around the back. But taking all of this into account and the fact it costs $2,499, I'm going to give this the recommended award. It's not perfect. I can't honestly give it as gold as much as I want to, as much as the performance is great, the fact it's lightweight, it looks so awesome. Razer aren't really worried about competing with other laptop manufacturers in the market. It's obvious that there are some laptops out there with a lot better specs for cheaper, but Razer have spent a lot of time making this look good. They put a lot of effort into the design, the specs, making it lightweight and really portable. That's what they wanted from this. A lot of laptops that are gaming laptops are really heavy, you can't carry them around, and Razer basically saying, what's the point in having something portable that's not really portable? They've compromised the price really for having this portable, having a good design, something that they can be proud of, and having this with good specs, something that will be able to play a lot of the AAA titles that are coming out that have intense graphics that are known to melt PCs. So as I said, I'm going to be giving this the recommended award. I've really loved using this laptop. The design of it's awesome. You guys know that I love how Razer designs their products, and this clearly sticks to everything that Razer believes in. So check it out if you're interested and you're wanting a gaming laptop. I would definitely recommend it. However, you are going to have some additional things such as a audio and mic adapter, maybe some additional USB ports. You might want an external hard drive, and definitely if you're looking at streaming gameplay or recording video, I wouldn't rely on this webcam. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.